return visitor to the Expo. Guild Wars 2 was last here 2 years ago. And here to give you an update from ArenaNet. It's the game design lead, and he said it was okay for me to call him this, Mike Z. Please give him a warm hand.
Thank you. Like you said, my name is Mike Zdrozny. I'm one of the game design leads at ArenaNet, working on Guild Wars 2. I mostly focus on the content side of the game, so I work really heavily with the teams that are working on the living world updates, as well as some of the feature teams, to kind of bring you this continuing adventure. This presentation is really about what we're trying to do and really how we're really trying to push the idea of this living world. So this is kind of the status of the game here now, 1 year after we've launched. 300 people over 5 years of development, plus 1 year of post-launch, and this kind of tells you the scale of what we've been working with. We're all super passionate about the game, and we're putting just as much resources into developing, or continue to develop, Guild Wars 2 that we did leading up into the initial release of the game. So the living world is kind of a holy grail within the MMO industry. It's something where if you can pull off this idea of an ever-changing world that is always updating around, that's always persistent, that every time players log in, there's unique experiences, something new and exciting for them to see. Like today you log in and there's a dragon minions attacking a town, and the next time you log in, there's a smaller kind of side quest that needs heroes to step up and be able to participate in some of these activities. This idea that players who are banding together can really help build a persistent world and change the face of where this isn't something that we can necessarily do yet due to either technical limitations or things like that, but we wanted to try and take a stab at this, because ultimately at the end of the day, player choice is something that we really wanted to reinforce and really let players help drive where the direction of what was going on in the game. So how are we trying to do this? Well, first off, we tried to limit the scope or the time between releases. Traditional MMOs will usually have about 4 months to 6 months before a major patch will drop and you'll get some new content. For us, we decided we actually want to drop this down to every 2 weeks. That way you were within 7 days of either brand new content coming out or had just been released. We wanted to continue telling a comprehensive storyline through all of these releases. And so that you've seen over the past year as we've released things for the Flame and Frost storyline, with the Dragon Bash Festival, that we've been telling these intricate storylines that are now actually coming to a head with our most recent releases. But more importantly, it's really about new journeys and new experiences for the players. Ultimately, this game is for you guys. And so we wanted to be able to create a lot of content at a rapid pace that you guys feel like the world is actually alive and is reacting to what you guys are doing in there. One of the other major key points that we wanted to do is we actually wanted to build the world alongside the player base, because the community is really where the MMOs are about. One of our marketing leads has this concept where he talks about how we don't really make games, we build communities, we just do it in the best way possible, which is through making games. And so we wanted to actually have the players walking with us on this journey and allowing them to kind of where the future is going. So at the beginning when we started this strategy, this is kind of what it looked like at the office. I'm the guy in the middle. Everyone's got really cool ideas about how we can really bring the world alive and how we can really shape the future and get the players more involved. But to ultimately do this strategy, it's an all or none situation. And so for us, we actually re-architected the company so we could pull this off. We basically dedicated all of the resources that we did to building the game so we could support this strategy. And ultimately, we did this from transitioning from everyone working towards one final release date where the game was put into your guys' hands to now where we have these continual releases that are coming every 2 weeks. So to pull this off, we actually have 4 living world teams that have about 4 months of time to play with that are responsible for 1 month's worth of content, and they overlap each other so that as soon as one team is done, they can take a little bit of a breather, and then they can regroup their efforts in terms of figuring out what's the next exciting thing that they want to tell. And so my team and the POCs at the top level are working with these teams to make sure that we're telling a consistent storyline, it's cohesive, and at the same time, we're also making sure that it's accessible by the players as well. But that's not the end of it. We still have the rest of the company, which is about 8 to 15 various feature teams that are around the studio that are still maintaining or creating new technologies through the tool systems or releasing quality of life features that just kind of really help improve the pace and the feel of the game. The currency wallet that we released a couple months ago is one of these examples of things that we still want to continue to improve upon the game, but still do that while still holding true to the idea of a living world. The way you really have to pull this off is through constant communication between all the teams. We really rely on everybody, even at the implementation level, to really have ideas and bring up the idea of this collaborative environment internally so that we can give you guys the best possible product. We do massive numbers of all calls where basically the entire company will shut down for a while and play through this content and give feedback so we can make sure that we're actually being able to release things at the quality that we expect ourselves. And finally, you really need a quality production team that can really schedule this stuff out and plan out and tell you where your resources are. So, this is what Tyria looked like when we initially launched the game. And this is kind of what it looks like today. For those of you who can't really tell the difference, here's a slide that kind of shows you. We only really wanted to open up one massive new zone permanently, which was Southstone Island down there in the bottom, the southwest. But the reason why is because we really want to focus our content into the existing world. We want to go back and change things and have it revolve around you guys as you are out there exploring. And so when we ever make a conscious decision about either adding something new to the map, it's always a very, very deliberate plan. Since we've launched the game, we've done 18 major releases. Going back to what I was saying earlier, where traditional MMOs will do about a 4 to 6 month cycle on releases, we've done 18 major ones since we launched the game. And this is just the beginning. So ultimately, the living world, we're using it as a platform, and we're doing a bunch of different things on the design side. One of the major concepts we do is we actually want to have the content out there that players will discover and that will lead them to kind of the existing story of what we're doing. We saw this with the balloon events you might have seen during the Queen's Jubilee, where as you're out there exploring, there's new things for you to see. There's new hot air balloons that are being attacked either by Aetherblade pirates, by other monsters that are attacking the emissaries that are trying to get there. And so by participating in these events, we'll actually end up unlocking the balloon that will be able to take them to the core content, which was the Queen's Gauntlet and the Crown Pavilion. One of the other major ways we do this is we actually bring the content directly to the players. In the follow-up update, Clockwork Chaos, we actually had these invasions at the top of the hour, every hour, we had invasions that were taking place across the game. And really kind of driving players into these maps and putting them up against these massive scenarios where creatures were just running havoc across the entire maps. And now that players have been able to successfully do this, we basically looked at the data and we realized how cool some of the invasion feel was, and so we left the content in there as permanent content, and we just reduced the time that it's going on. Now they happen about once every 4 hours, but it's stuff that's now permanently within part of the game. One of the really core things, though, is we really want to make sure that the content is involving the players. And so with Cutthroat Politics, we basically opened up an election. Now, granted, it was a pirate election, so it wasn't exactly fair. It wasn't one vote per person. Players who were playing the content got more votes, or people who wanted to pony up money could also buy additional votes as well. But the idea here was that we basically had 2 NPCs. We gave them full stories. We gave them full kind of platforms that they were running on. One of them's platform was running on cheaper waypoints for the next couple months. One of them was going to lower the cost of Black Lion Trading Company keys for a couple months. But in addition to that, we started putting content applications to this as well. So players voted ultimately what the next fractal that we were going to release. In November of last year, we released the Fractals of the Mist, which was this scaling dungeon that as players got better and got further into it, that it got harder and more difficult. Creatures got more health, they got more levels, more loot, that kind of stuff. And so now the next story that we're going to be unlocking later this year was decided by the players. And this is kind of one of those things where we're talking about, we want the players involved. We want you guys walking with us on this path and telling us where you want us to see the game going. But ultimately what this does, if you think about our schedule, it's more like a train station. Every 2 weeks we know there's a build coming out. And so if there's a major feature that we don't think is ready because either the quality's not good enough or maybe we need another iteration on it, we can delay those and it's not going to impact the release and making sure that you guys still have quality coming into your hands. We saw this most recently with the Looking for Group system, which was one of the teams that I worked with. Just as we were getting ready to launch, there were some major concerns on our end in terms of how this was going to roll out to the player base. And so we released it as a beta instead. And so we're slowly adding more and more players into it. We're adding more features like World versus World is going to come back in as one of the categories you can filter for. But it was just one of those things we want to make sure that as we're doing this strategy of updating the world, that it doesn't cost us in terms of what the quality of the product that we're releasing to you. So what do you get out of this? First off, it's a more engaged player base. You guys care more about what's going on in the game now than you did when we initially launched the game. We've seen that through the interaction that you guys have with each other on the forums, interacting with us when we come to conventions like this, whenever we're just doing festivals and things like that. The player base has responded well to this. And the really cool thing about this is whenever we release something brand new, there's a huge emphasis of everyone trying to go and explore and see what that new content is. And so what this does is it means that when brand new players are trying this stuff out for the first time, there's a plethora of people who are out there who are ready to join with them and help join them in the new content. And so this focus allows us to kind of focus again on the existing world that we've released for you, so that we don't release too many maps and fracture the player base. There's no one around for you guys to play with. It's also kind of give us a healthier and a consistently growing community. Since we've taken on this strategy, we've seen more players coming back who might have put the game down for a while, more new players coming into the game, and in general, just people are playing more. They're really excited about what we're doing and why we're trying to do this stuff. At the end of the day, though, it's really about the experience that you guys have in here that we really care about. It's the player stories. We're playing these games, but why are we doing it? And it's for the experience that we take away from it when we walk away. When I can recount numerous from either my favorite games, from stories from my MMOs I've played in the past, where there's epic things that you have done that when you talk to other gamers or to your friends about it, these are the things that really carry with you. And so we saw this with the initial release of South Sun Cove. It was a new island. People came out. They were basically colonizing it and helping build bridges and things like this. In May, when we did the Return to South Sun event, players were there and could share about, oh, hey, remember what happened when we were here last time? Things were different. We progressed the story, but at the same time, there was still this connection that players had with each other based on the. And again, this leads back to direct more community involvement. You guys really care about this. There's more speculation about where we're going, where the story is, where we've been, and kind of getting more involved in where we want to take this game. So what's next? Because for the past year, we've been building this up. We've been building the platform. We've been creating the basis for what we can do and where we can take the game into the future. And so ultimately, up until this point, it's been kind of overt how we've gotten you guys involved. With the exception of the voting from Cutthroat Politics, we really kind of have been looking at the data and the metrics and where you guys are spending time. What have you guys been doing? What do you comment on the forums and things like that? One of the things I mentioned multiple times on this slide is the idea that this is really just the beginning, and this really is. Because now that we put the platform out there, it allows us to kind of think about where we go from here. If you think about it from the traditional quest system of talking to NPCs with bangs and going out and killing 10 things and coming back and collecting a reward, we iterated that to the idea of a dynamic event. And then we iterated on that concept to bring the idea of a living world. And so now it's our chance to kind of iterate on this one step further and see where do we go from here? Where can we continue to push the bounds of what it means to be an interactive medium on an MMO scale? So we're going to be doing more new, massive, world-changing events. We're going to be doing things that are going to change the face of the map, that things are going to change. The world right now is not going to necessarily be the same. We're always looking back at festivals that are really popular. Halloween's just around the corner. In Guild Wars 1, it was super popular. And even with the initial launch, public reaction has been really favorable on that. So obviously these festivals are coming back. But more importantly, popular content as well. People were concerned at the beginning when we started this idea of this living world strategy that every 2 weeks we were going to be taking something away, even if players really enjoyed it. Well, yes, we're taking away, but we're looking at the feedback and saying, okay, what do you guys really enjoy, and what are the things that you want to see come back into the game? Because this is the start where we're listening to you guys to figure out what really needs to be there as part of this massive world. And then ultimately, like I said, this is just the beginning. Whatever you can think about in terms of how we would change the world of Tyria, this is stuff that we're currently talking about. So if you guys are speculating on this stuff, you guys are posting on the forums, we're paying attention to this because just as well, we're super excited about kind of where we can take the game. But literally what's next? Next Tuesday, we have a release that we've been talking about, Twilight Assault. This is actually really exciting for us because it's one of the first times that we're actually having the living world return to the existing dungeons. We updated the Ascalonian Catacombs earlier this year, and now we're adding a permanent new explorable path to Twilight Arbor. This is going to be a level 80 explorable, one of our tougher challenges. We basically took members of the team that did the Aetherblade Retreat and the Molten Alliance facility, that players really enjoyed, and we took members of both those teams and put them together on this, and basically said, okay, give us something new, give us something. So these guys have come up with new challenges, new traps, and new bosses that match up to the paradigm that we've been redesigning everything since we launched the game. Also, you're going to see the return of Keith. Keith was one of our iconics who was part of the personal storyline, and we kind of parted ways with our good friends at the end of the story after we were battling as I-10 with them together. And so now we're going to see Keith come back, and we're going to start, all of these storylines that we've been talking about up until this point are now coming to a head, and it's gotten serious enough that, Keith and some of the iconics are going to start playing into this as well. Scarlet has returned, and so we're basically hunting her down, and we're going to see in a couple of videos I'm going to show here in a second that Scarlet, our mad villain who knows too much about the world, has gone a little bit insane, and so she's got this facility that she's set up, and so players are going to be invading this facility and trying to shut it down, working with the Lion Guard and some other forces. And to kind of illustrate how crazy this gal has been, she attacked Divinity's Reach during the Queen's Jubilee. She mailed players a bomb that would down them at the end of the event for you stopping her. And she's created these interactive holograms that are now inside this dungeon. It's like she was expecting players and heroes to come and invade her new lair, that she set up these holograms to respond to player incursions. So we'll take a look at the first video here real quick.
Peggy 12.
Time to do some real damage.
Stand your ground! Infuriate!
Like actual dogs, Soviet. Oh, the cute little puppy. Kill, puppy, kill! Oh, good dog!
Pain for pain!
Have I mentioned how much I love unusual pairings? Because I do. And as such, I present Sparky and Slick.
Greetings. Prepare to be barbecued.
Let the boss talk, Spark. She spent a lot of time setting up these messages.
They complement each other perfectly. Just like fire needs fuel and fuel needs ignition. But don't take my word for it. Sparky, Slick, show 'em what you can do. And make it burn.
So we're going to see Scarlet becoming even more mad over these next couple releases and her interaction with the players. But ultimately, one of the other things I want to show you guys today is here's a look at artistically what we're doing with the dungeon as you're going from the natural environment to the inner lab as well. So, like I said, all this is going to be coming out this Tuesday, and we're really excited about this patch. There's some really interesting challenges. There's some interesting things for you to explore even after you've gone through the dungeon, and we're just really excited about this. So, I mean, this is an example of all the stuff that we're going to be bringing to you guys over a 2-week cadence, and it's continuous updates. Again, there's no subscription fee for the game, so we're dedicated to it just as much, like I said, as pre-launch as we are right now. And then today, later this afternoon or evening, there's a brand new week-long free trial that's opening up. So players can grab the client from the website, guildwars2.com, can download it, and can just jump in and play. And really, we're really excited about anybody who kind of comes and joins and plays within our world, because at the same time as we're giving you kind of these unique experiences, we're looking at your guys' feedback to kind of help us tell where we want to go with this game. So come join our world, come play with us, and help us build Tyria. So that's it.
All right. Thanks very much, Mike. We've got about 10, 15 minutes for questions. If you have a question, stick your hand up and we'll try and get a mic to you. Let's start with this chap over here.
Hi there, Lone Samurai, Sanitarium.fm. Quick question, following the forums recently, how closely do you think you've actually stuck to the manifesto that Guild Wars 2 originally came out with?
So for us, it's really about listening to the players, but at the same time, it's also about what we can do, what we can innovate even on the genre. So there were a lot of things that we talked about in the manifesto that we wanted to do from an iterative standpoint of where we were going with the game and across the industry. And so as we've gone into development on some of these features, we've realized sometimes we need to make slight adjustments to either handle various situations that have arisen, but at the same time, we still hold core values of the pillars in terms of making a world that's very alive, that reacts to the players, that gives them a unique experience, that allows us to iterate not just on the game itself, but internally how we iterate even within the company. And so one of those things is, sometimes we have to stray away from what we've said in the past, but at the same time, we're looking at it in terms of what we think is the best for the game and for the community.
Thanks very much.
Hi there, quick question. This new update with Tequatl, really nice job. It's really hard. It gives us something to do. However, this biggest disadvantage with that is how it basically destroys your party, your friends, everything. When you try to play on your home server, you're going to get into an overflow. You won't be on the same server. How can we play together, be a community from the same district or whatever, and then play against Tequatl?
So we are very aware of the limitations that exist within the system right now. This is something we're actively discussing and trying to figure out how we can actually solve some of these problems. We definitely wanted to bring you guys a giant challenge with the release of Tequatl. We wanted to prove that we could actually put something in there that was going to be challenging for players, that we were hoping originally was going to take days or weeks for players to overcome as opposed to 12 hours. But we really wanted to kind of put forth this concept of having an entire world coming together to overcome some of these challenges. And we are looking at some of these things right now, and we're discussing ways that we can actually improve the experience and really support the idea of the community at large.
Yeah, this guy in the grey hoodie.
I don't get a huge amount of time to play a lot of the content, and obviously the 2-week cycle can really struggle, especially, I work in the games industry, we get crunch time, you don't get that much time for social stuff. Is there anything in plan for being able to revisit some of the old content in a way that is possibly restrictive on reward, but still provides you the achievements? I mean, there's some of the stuff, the invasions, it's like kill 1,000 guys, and I've got 5 off getting the full achievement, and I can't ever complete that now. Is there anything in plan for that?
So obviously with the content itself, it's always something we have in our back pocket and stuff that we will be bringing back. Example of this is Halloween is returning, so you can imagine that some of the stuff that we did last year will be making its way, especially the more popular stuff will be coming back. For those of you who really enjoy the challenge of the Mad King's Tower, that definitely will be coming back as well. So the idea of the Living World strategy gives us that idea of we can have those content, and we can just re-bring it back out for players to kind of enjoy again.
Okay, towards the back there in the black top. Oh, sorry, we've got one down here. I'll come to you next.
Over the past year, ArenaNet's made a range of design decisions that have led to progression in endgame being unviable in more than one character. Are you going to do anything to address this?
It's almost like you're reading my emails. Yeah, this is definitely something that we're talking about right now as well. The nice thing about this idea of doing 2-week releases is we can look at something that is not necessarily as popular or things that we've been doing that aren't favorable, and we can make changes to those strategies and those things. We're definitely looking in terms of how we've been rewarding players, what the rewards are, and definitely we want to support the idea of players being able to play alts and not feel like they're really missing out on content.
Okay.
Is there any plans to release new skills or anything like that? Because you can gain all the skills pretty much at the beginning of the game and the beginning land, and there's no real challenge behind it.
Nothing is off the table. We have a skills and balance team that is working on not necessarily just looking at the game as a holistic from a balance perspective, but also talking about ways that we can introduce either new reward schemes or things like that. So we're always looking at what else we can do to encourage players to really kind of go out there and re-explore the world.
Thank you.
And we've got one down here.
So this is very heavily focused around living world. I just wonder what your thoughts are about where the PvP world is going, and in particular, guild versus guild.
Yes. So unfortunately, I can't speak too much to this because that's not the teams I really work for. I do know that we have fully dedicated teams. When we're talking about the feature teams, there's a fully dedicated team for PvP. There's a fully dedicated team for world versus world, who are really kind of focused on those particular aspects of the game. I know that there is a loud community in terms of GVG and supporting those features. So it's definitely something we're listening to and trying to figure out what the best possible solution for that. Because we want to support you guys. This is a kind of a player-grown initiative, and it's awesome. The concept of you guys basically introducing new game types is something we've taken back all the way from Guild Wars 1. The dodgeball that was released from the Dragon Festival way back in the day actually came from players basically just doing this game, and we felt it was really awesome, so we wanted to support it. So we're always listening. We're always looking at that kind of stuff and seeing what we can do.
Okay, next question. Down in the middle here.
Hiya. Just wondering, you don't have to spell anything out, but are there any plans on any new playable races or classes?
Like I said, there's nothing that's off the table. I mean, these are all the things that we're always looking at in terms of, again, feature teams. Those guys can do really big and impressive things, and we could do stuff like that on one of those teams. So you'll definitely hear about more of that stuff when we get closer to launching something like that if we were going to do that. Not saying that we currently are. But that's the reason why we do the strategy the way we do it. So specifically, the things that take longer, the things that require more development time and resources can actually take that dedicated time, and we don't have to rush it out into a schedule that just hurries it out to the door, and either the quality suffers or the game suffers as a whole.
Yeah.
Will Guild Housing be making a comeback at all from Guild Wars 1?
So, guild halls were a really awesome feature from Guild Wars 1, and it obviously was missing from the release of Guild Wars 2. But I can't really say anything about that right now, other than it's something that it's on our list of things we would love to bring to the game. But it's also important to us how we bring some of this stuff in terms of gameplay, in terms of balance concerns, if there's a guild or if there's a play type around. So we're all again, I got to reiterate this: we're always listening, and that's definitely one of those things that we hear people talking about, and so it's on our list.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Yes.
Your staff's getting exercise on this.
While the living world is excellent and it's been fantastic since you guys have been implementing it, one of the problems that me and a few other friends that I play with have found is that because of the drive, obviously, for the majority of players to complete the living world, and the fact that you're releasing every 2 weeks, the actual personal story stuff and the stuff to do with the end game content in the main game is much more difficult to complete because obviously the majority of players are off doing the living world. Is there any incentivize people for either helping newer players complete the living world content to get them up to the level 80 where they can truly experience the living world content to its fullest, or incentivizing people to go back and completing through the main story?
It is something we've discussed. That's part of the reason why we wanted to put a looking for group system within the game, was so that players who are trying to do story mode for dungeons that are really not popular, that there was ways for them to find other people. And so again, that's the reason for that particular system. It's the entire region that you're looking for group for other players. In terms of rewards and incentives, that's definitely something that we're looking at and discussing, but it's a tricky balance, because we do want to encourage a lot of people going back and playing some of this content, and so that's part of the reason why we're having people come back to, or we're doing a release around Twilight Arbor. So it's definitely one of those things we're taking into consideration.
Yep, at the back.
Hi. With the advent of the Twilight Rising update, can we expect to see any balance updates to the other Lieutenant Dragons or even Zaitan?
So we did do a little bit of some tweaks on them with that release, but we basically looked at Tequatl as step one for the open world bosses. And so now we're taking a look at the rest of the game and the rest of the world and evaluating where we want to take the next stab at this stuff. It was a massive undertaking. It was a lot of fun. The Tequatl Rising actually was done by one of the feature teams, and they got somewhat far along that we were like, hey, let's put this out as part of the living world content, and actually make a big thing about this concept of this new challenge. But we need to take all that into consideration in terms of the rest of the resources and what we're doing with the rest of the company. But there are those of us, the company, who want to do so much more.
Okay, we've got time for one more question. Yep, green t-shirt here.
Let's do two more, because that guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. One of the problems that we have with Guild Wars is it's kind of now daily wars. You've put a lot of caps on everything, caps on dungeon reward, caps on fractals and everything. Because of this, once you've run it through one day, you're kind of finished with it, which doesn't provide you any playability, or you cannot join another group or anything like that. Have you guys decided to do something where you might remove the cap or change the reward that would allow players to come back to this content?
So one of the things that we're always looking for, and one of our goals has been the idea of, there was an unfavorable topic of diminishing returns back when we initially launched the game, and our goal has always been to remove that cap and basically build the content in such a way that just allows you guys to play naturally and see the stuff. You'll see that in terms of some of the daily achievements themselves. If you go play Tequatl, you're going to get most of your achievements done. We want those things to be either things that kind of a checklist if people want that kind of direction. But if you're just playing the game naturally, if you're playing what you really enjoy, that you're going to get these things as well. So yeah, we do care about this idea of you're limited to what you can do, or at least the rewards are limited based on how much time you're putting into it. But at the same time, we don't want to create a situation where the optimal thing is to go run or farm the Ara dungeon over and over and over again just for tokens or things like that. We want to create a game that is really fun to play, but not something that makes it feel like you have to be doing this thing over and over again to feel like you're actually making progress within the game.
Okay, let's just squeeze one more question in. Oh yeah, over on the right.
Hi. So after level capping twice, I found that I kind of got bored with a lot of the content coming out. I understand that a lot of my friends really enjoyed it, but I was wondering if there are any plans to raise level caps in any way in future content updates or expansions, if you're planning on those.
So the expansion question. So for us, right now we're really focused on this idea of a living world, and so the features that you would find in an expansion pack is stuff that we can release here with the feature teams that are currently in development. That's the kind of stuff that we want to really focus on right now. So nothing is off the table. Even the concept of an expansion isn't necessarily off the table. It's just not something we're focused on right now. So level caps, playable races, new professions, that's all the kind of stuff that we want to be able to have the freedom to work on when we feel the time is right, or when we really want to do those kind of things. So right now, that's not our focus, but it's not off the table.
All right, that really is all we've got time for. So thank you very much for coming, and thank you, Mike.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Eurogamer, for letting me speak to you guys today, and enjoy the rest of the show.